The first time three HOA officers marched onto my property on a Saturday morning with cameras already rolling, I remember thinking, well, this is either the dumbest power move I've ever seen or the last bad decision they're going to make for a very long time. I was standing there pressure, washing my driveway, my own driveway, the one my late wife and I bought with 2 suitcases, a pickup truck, and more hope than money. And this woman got 6 inches from my face and told me to shut it off like she owned the ground under my boots. So I did. I shut it off, and the silence that followed was so big, so heavy it almost felt staged. What she didn't know was I had spent 2 years being patient, and the last 3 weeks making sure patience finally had teeth. My name's Garland Pruitt. I'm 58. Retired from logistics, 2 bad knees, 1 paid-off mortgage, and the kind of man who used to believe that if you followed the rules, kept records, showed up on time, and didn't go looking for trouble, trouble usually passed you by. My wife Darlene used to laugh at that. She said I had the patience of a saint and the stubborn streak of a mule, which, according to her, was either going to save me one day or get me buried on principle. Turns out she was right on both counts. We bought that house in Mapplewroth Commons back in 2017 in Riverton, Ohio. Quiet place. Vinyl siding, attached garages, little oak trees lining the streets, neighbors waving from driveways, people leaving extra zucchini on each other's porches every August because nobody grows just 1 zucchini plant in Ohio. The HOA was there, sure, but it was background noise. Dues, newsletters nobody read, a pool that stayed mostly empty, manageable, harmless, or so I thought. Darlene planted a vegetable garden along the south fence that first summer. Tomatoes, peppers, zucchini, all of it in 2 raised wooden planters she built herself. She'd be out there in garden gloves and that faded Ohio State shirt she refused to throw away, talking to plants like they were children with attitude. I'd bring her coffee and stand there pretending I had something useful to add, and she'd give me that look that said, "Garland, I love you, but you are not needed for this operation." Those were good years. Real good years. Then in 2019, ovarian cancer took her. 11 months from diagnosis to gone. And let me tell you something nobody says right. Grief doesn't hit all at once. It empties a house 1 room at a time. One day it's her side of the bed, then it's the kitchen, then it's the sound of the back door opening in the morning. Then one afternoon you're standing in your own home, and it feels like somebody quietly stole the air out of it while you were in the other room. I kept the garden going after she passed. Not because I cared that much about tomatoes, because she did. My daughter Bree called every Sunday from Columbus. My neighbor Cornelius Webb brought over chili in winter and acted like it was no big deal. Life got smaller, quieter, but manageable. Then Wanda Shear moved in. Pandemic transplant from Columbus. Sold her condo. Landed in Mapplewroth Commons in 2020. And within months she was on the HOA board. A few months after that, she was president. At first I thought, good for her. I had no idea I was watching a woman audition for petty dictatorship in a subdivision with decorative mailboxes. The first thing I really noticed was her tone. At a board meeting, some poor guy asked if he could repaint his shutters a slightly different shade of gray. Not purple, not neon orange. Gray. Wanda smiled that dry little smile of hers and said, "We have standards here. That's what separates us from other neighborhoods." The way she said other neighborhoods, I felt it in my teeth. The first formal notice I got came in March of 2022. Certified mail. My driveway, according to the HOA, was in visible disrepair. 30 days to fix it or face a fine. I walked outside and looked at my driveway. Then I looked at the rest of the street. Mine looked exactly like everybody else's. Same weathering, same age, same concrete. Mine was the only one-sided. So I did what I do. I read the rules. I checked Ohio law. I wrote a polite response. Then I pressure washed the driveway, sealed it, cleaned it up so it would look better than the day it was poured. I remember standing there afterward feeling a little proud of myself. That was my first mistake, because petty people don't see compliance as peace. They see it as proof they can move you. 6 weeks later, I got another notice. This one said Darlene's garden beds were permanent structures requiring board approval. 2 wooden planters, 8 feet long, 2 feet high, full of tomatoes and peppers. That was what Wanda had decided needed enforcement. I sat at my kitchen table with that paper in my hand, and all I could think about was Darlene coming in from the yard with dirt under her nails, building those boxes while cancer was already eating away at her, determined to grow something anyway. Wanda had turned that into a violation. That was the moment something in me changed. I started calling neighbors. Cornelius had gotten notices. Patricia Huang had gotten notices. Desmond, the new guy from Pittsburgh, had gotten notices. Wind chimes, a basketball hoop, a storm door, an oil stain old enough to vote. And when I wrote it all down, a pattern came into focus. So clean it made my old logistics brain light up. Every household being targeted was either a minority family, a working-class homeowner, or someone who had challenged the board. Nobody on Wanda's street got cited. Not once. That wasn't random. That was selection. So I bought trail cameras, put one on my porch, one out back. I started photographing cited properties and non-cited properties side by side. Dates, notes, comparisons. Then I found the statute that changed everything. Ohio law gave homeowners a right to inspect HOA records if they asked in writing. Notices, meeting minutes, finances, all of it. I mailed the request certified and kept the receipt. They dragged their feet, of course, claimed the records had to be organized, posted vague little Facebook comments about nuisance requests wasting community resources. But I gave them the deadline the law required, and on day 9 the record arrived. I spread them across my kitchen table and started reading. By the end of that afternoon, I had 23 months of enforcement notices in front of me, 41 total. 34 of them had gone to just 6 households, all minority-owned or outspoken. Not one single notice to Wanda Street. Not one. I remember sitting back in the kitchen, staring at Darlene's reading glasses still on the windowsill above the sink, and thinking, okay, this isn't just annoying. This is dirty. That was when I called Adeline Marsh, a real estate and HOA attorney out of Dayton. Sharp woman. No wasted words. She reviewed my file, looked up, and said, they've got procedural violations all over this. And this pattern? Garland, this may be Fair Housing Act territory. I had walked in expecting a property dispute. She was talking about civil rights. Once she started digging, things got uglier fast. There was a line item buried in HOA finances. Over $20,000 paid out under a vague consulting contract. No vote, no documentation. No proper disclosure. Turned out the money had gone to Wanda's brother-in-law's company. Then Desmond, who had 15 years in commercial real estate and the soul of a forensic accountant, when properly irritated, started cross-checking statements against board minutes. More undocumented fees. Fines collected under rules that, as we were about to learn, had never even been legally adopted. That was the twist. That was the part that made the whole thing fall open. Cornelius had been in the neighborhood since 2008, and unlike the rest of us, Cornelius kept everything. One evening he called me and said very calmly, Garland, I need you to sit down. He had found the original governing documents, the real CC and RS file with the county back in 1998. We compared them to the version Wanda had been handing out since 2021. They were not the same. The section she used against my garden beds didn't exist. The driveway finish rule didn't exist. The outdoor decor rule used against Patricia didn't exist. The storm door approval rule didn't exist. She had been enforcing made-up rules. Printed paper dressed up to look official. And 16 families had paid over $31,000 because they thought they had no choice. That was when the Kitchen Table Coalition formed. Cornelius, Patricia, Desmond, Marla Oates, retired teacher, 71, steel spine, glasses on a beaded chain, casserole in one hand, and 2 years of fine notices in the other. 12 of us by the end. Folders, printouts, emails, spreadsheets, coffee, cold biscuits, dead serious faces. I looked around that table and realized this wasn't my fight anymore. It belonged to everybody she had counted on staying quiet. So we built a trap. Legal track, community track, physical track. Adeline, and a fair housing attorney filed complaints with the Ohio Civil Rights Commission and the Attorney General at the same time. Cornelius went door to door, calmly explaining to affected homeowners that the rules used to find them were never valid. Marla organized paperwork like a battlefield quartermaster. Desmond kept pulling threads out of finances until the whole sweater was on fire. And me, I set the bait. Because after 2 years of being targeted, I knew one thing for certain about Wanda Shear. She could not leave well enough alone. If she saw me pressure, washing that driveway again, she would come, not because it was wise, because she was built that way. So I sent a certified notice warning the board that any unannounced visit to my property would be treated as harassment. She signed for it. Then I arranged cameras, witnesses, live stream, dash cam coverage, a reporter, both attorneys, and, quietly, through Adeline, a preservation order request already in motion with the Attorney General's office and the sheriff. Then Saturday morning came. I made biscuits, set my boots by the door, turned on the pressure washer at 7:45. At 8:02, the black SUV rolled onto my street. Wanda got out first, clipboard under her arm, reading glasses on her head, walking like she thought the day belonged to her. Denon followed, looking uneasy. Lynette had her phone out recording before her feet hit the pavement. They walked straight through my gate and up my driveway like the certified notice never existed. Wanda started smooth. Drop the complaints, she said, and the board could offer a fresh start, a goodwill gesture. She used the word community so many times I almost laughed. When she was done, I asked one question. Was the $22,000 paid to Hollis Greer voted on in a properly noticed meeting? Something changed in her face right then. Not fear yet, just the first crack. Then I showed her the signed certified receipt. Told her the conversation was being live-streamed to attorneys, neighbors, and a reporter. Told her she had been formally warned not to show up unannounced. Lynette lowered her phone, then took a step back. And right on cue, the doors of the unmarked sedan at the end of the block opened. A financial crimes investigator and a sheriff's deputy walked up my driveway calm as church ushers. They served the preservation order, informed Wanda and Denton that financial crimes charges were being pursued, and advised Lynette and Denton they were now part of a witness intimidation inquiry, too. Wanda tried the bored voice for about 30 seconds. Then the investigator showed her a document, and that voice died right there in my driveway. The handcuffs weren't dramatic. No screaming. No movie scene. Just that quiet metal click that sounds like consequence finally catching up. Cornelius stepped out of his truck and came to stand beside me. The whole street was watching through windows and from porches, everybody pretending not to stare while absolutely staring. Morning light was cutting through the bare oak trees. My driveway was clean in long straight lines. Cornelius looked at it and said, "Hell of a Saturday morning." I said, "Yeah." And for the first time in 2 years, the place felt quiet for the right reason. The fallout came fast. Charges, fraud, misappropriation, conspiracy for the brother-in-law. Lynette cooperated. The HOA had to return every dollar collected under those fake rules. Families got checks, written apologies. Emergency management took over the board. Other HOAs started getting looked at too. I got $150 back. That was all Wanda had ever managed to squeeze out of me. I framed the check and hung it in my kitchen. And somewhere in all of that, I learned something I wish more people understood sooner. Most abuse of power doesn't start with force. It starts with paperwork. Tone, bluff, A rule in bold print. A certified envelope. Somebody counting on the fact that you assume authority must be real because it sounds official. That's the trick, not the law itself, the performance of it. Wanda was never powerful. Not really. She was just standing in the space where nobody had checked her math. Darlene taught me something before she died, though she probably didn't know she was teaching it. When time gets short, you get real clear on what matters. For her, it was a garden. 2 wooden boxes full of dirt and hope. She was sick, scared, running out of time, and still stubborn enough to plant tomatoes. That stayed with me. Some things are small until the wrong person puts a boot on them. Then they become the whole fight. So when the dust settled, I didn't join the board. Didn't want power. Never did. I just wanted fairness back where it belonged. And I'll tell you this much. On some mornings, when the light hits that driveway just right, I stand there with my coffee. Look at those clean, straight lines. And think about the sound of those handcuffs closing while Wanda stood on the very concrete she'd spent 2 years trying to use against me. That sound still warms me better than the coffee does. So let me ask you something. When authority crosses a line, do you think fighting back is justice? Or revenge with better paperwork? And have you ever dealt with somebody who counted on you not knowing your rights? Tell me where you land on it, and tell me what you would have done in my place.